Welcome to. Are you still hearing me? Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to our meetup, our meditation class for October 16th or 17th. October is just going by. This year is going to be gone before we know it. I feel like I'm going to be saying this in November, and then we're going to be into 2018 before we know it here. What's happening, Kate? We're going to be
What do
like,
you?
well,
I
I
know.
don't know. Like you just arrived, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, well, Kate's been here for a year now.
I was just telling my grandma that the other day how fast the years gone by.
Mm-hmm. So I have a little talk for you today. Good to see you, Diane. It's nice to have you in this class.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Really great. Good to see all of you.
Okay, before we do our talk, we're going to just do some grounding and centering and our mantra. Okay. So let's just begin by feeling our connection with the earth underneath us. So start by feeling the qualities of the earth that are always available to us, but we tend to get distracted and pulled up in a million different directions. And so when we feel our connection to the earth, we can start to feel those qualities again, a sense of rootedness and softness, openness, stability, and grounding, a sense of depth. And ease, things that it's easy to forget that are always there for us as we go about our days. So just take a few moments now to allow those qualities to begin to enter into your body, through your feet, through your buttocks. And what you'll begin to notice is that as these qualities of the earth start to come up into your body, is that there's a kind of natural impulse for your spine to lengthen, that the qualities of the earth, the support of the earth begins to lengthen up your spine. From the base of your spine all the way up through the crown of your head, and there's a natural drawing back through the back of your head as your ears draw back over your shoulders. And there's an opening through the back of your neck, a slight tuck in your chin, space between your teeth. And you can just come and rest in your body. Notice what's happening in your body. So there'll be a sense of spaciousness and openness in parts of your body, but also you'll probably start to point into and connect with points of tension and holding and gripping. And it's okay, you just let all of that be present. And then breathing into your lower belly. Feeling the breath coming into your lower belly, 3 finger widths below your navel, 2 finger widths behind that. And although each one of us is doing this practice for ourselves, just take note for a moment too that we're also doing it together in community. So each one of us is connecting into the very same earth energy, although albeit from different parts in the planet, we're all connecting to the same energy of the earth. And we're all connecting into our bodies in very similar ways. We're all feeling that sense of spaciousness and openness in our body. We're all feeling points of tension. We're all feeling that energy in our lower belly. So there's a sense of shared experience there. That even though we're having this experience by ourselves, we're also having it together collectively. And then just notice how the words of our mantra are landing in your body today. Remembering that I am intrinsically good at without exception, and that I have been given this precious opportunity in my unique life. I find ways to engage in daily practice in my everyday life. When I open to the vastness, stillness, silence, peace, and stability of the earth, that vastness, stillness, silence, peace, and stability opens into my body and being. And remembering that my heart is open, tender, and responsive, I enter into relationships as part of my daily practice in my everyday life. So the third part of our mantra is a big part of the way that we come together in community. Open means that we are open to life as it unfolds. Tender means we know intuitively what needs to happen, and we know in our community that each person here knows intuitively what needs to happen, and so there's no need to fix or change anybody or give anybody advice, because we know that each person can tune into their own internal wisdom, to their own felt sense in their bodies, and respond without judgment or reservation. So that's a big part of the third part of the mantra. And it's a big part of the community that I know all of you value. So let's come back together here in our circle for the teaching talk. And I just want to point out that, one thing that I've been reflecting on a lot lately is how unique our live classes are here in our membership community compared to Facebook Live and YouTube Live classes, which they're very unidirectional in that when I do a Facebook Live class or a YouTube Live class, or if I were to pick up Instagram Live, which I'm sure I will at some point, I just have bigger audiences in other places, so I haven't tried it yet, but it's the video and the audio is only focused on the presenter. There's no chance to see the other people who are involved. The only way for the other people who are involved to interact is through text. You can leave comments or little hearts and thumbs, like little icons, which are cute. But this space is very unique because we have this very human face-to-face interaction. A lot of times in text speech, in written text, the emotional tone can get lost, So I know one time I was doing a Facebook Live and I took the meaning of somebody's comment wrong. He was making a joke, but I thought he was putting down my delivery. And so, things like that, whereas here, we can hear each other's inflection, we can see our facial expressions and everything. So just notice what it's like to be in this environment, even right now when you're muted and we're, it is unidirectional at the point of me giving the teaching, to be able to see each other, to be able to, and I can see your nodding heads, and you can see each other, and you can see your reactions to the talk as it goes forward. So just know that that is something that is happening here, and how that affects your experience. So I wanted to talk about community a little bit more, because we have a couple more weeks to focus on community. And one of the things that I have been asking our guardians of the community to consider when they are fostering discussion in the DYC and elsewhere in our community is to ask the question, why is Melissa focusing on what she's focusing on? That's one of the ways to further discussion, to offer insight, is to ask the question, why are we focusing on this? And so that was sort of my springboard point for today. Why are we focusing on community? What does this really have to do with yoga? And it's, in a lot of ways, to bring community forward in a yoga community, even though we are a community, has been a little bit of an uphill or against stream endeavor, because community in a lot of ways goes against the grain of our culture. In our culture, we really revere the self-contained person, the self-made person who does it all themselves. And individualism is highly valued over the collective. And in other words, our collective culture encourages us to be quite self-reliant and independent. And I was reading through your comments this past week on the DYC when Paige asked you to reflect on what community means to you. And this was really evident and I appreciated many of you speaking about your edges around community, the edge around asking for support. And I get that. And hesitancy to be part of a community, and an inherent comfort to retreat into yourself. Most of us are raised in a culture, most of us live in a culture that favor individual freedom and individual action over the good of a collective community. I think Sandrine might be the exception to this rule here. Somebody who lives outside of a culture like this, although that might be shifting to where you live. So it would be interesting to hear your perspective on this. But, there are a lot of ways that we can bring this forward, and I'm sure you can think of other examples and maybe better examples, but one of the ways that we see this is in our culture of economic disparity. And in the US, one example is the Waltons of Walmart have as much wealth as the poorest 40% of Americans. In the UK, more than 1 million people receive aid from food banks, according to 2015 figures, while the 5 richest families have the same wealth as 12 million people in that country. In this kind of individualist society, there's a tyranny of self-improvement. And we know this, we feel this. I know it because the Inner Critic series is one that resonates so strongly with all of you, that you feel this kind of pushback against this continual need to improve yourselves, to be always achieving, whether that be self or this kind of ongoing need for materialism and self-gain. And these kind of goals, which are held so highly in our culture, lose sight of the good of the collective. And it's a kind of narcissism and a self-centeredness that fails to take into consideration the well-being of all of our human beings. It lifts up a few, but it leaves behind many. And a lot of the platforms that claim to be social or community-oriented are actually simply collecting a lot of information about people so that they can advertise back to you again. And then this advertising is part of a consumer culture that beats to the continual drum of you're not good enough, so that you have to buy products for more self-improvement. So this feeds into that need for constant self-improvement again. And a lot of time on social, we spend time focusing on ourselves, presenting a polished version of ourselves. And hey, I totally get it. And I know that I have intentionally over the last few months stepped into that in a way that I haven't so much before, but I am now more than ever, in order to be heard in an arena where there's just so much noise. That in order to have your message heard, it's necessary to put a polished version of yourself forward now. And the problem with it is that it distorts our own personal reality and also our own social reality. You know, this kind of way of presenting ourselves in social media, it makes us feel disconnected. Certain characteristics of social media make us feel like we're being excluded when we continually see photos of friends or people that we know out for dinner all the time, buying new things all the time, on vacation, and we feel like we're not involved in those ways. Or exposure to highly idealized representations of lives of people that we know on social media, they elicit feelings of envy and the distorted belief that other people lead lives that are happier and more successful than us. This all leads us to feel more disconnected from others, and also leads us to have this kind of inherent mistrust of others. And it feeds into that culture of self-obsession that reveres the individual and encourages us to project this idealized version of ourselves. And then we continue to feel that, well, we don't need community. And in fact, we don't trust community. And we start to approach others with suspicion and preconceived opinions, not based on truths, but based on our experience of what we're seeing in social media and our experience of what's being presented to us in commercial culture and advertising. And we believe that we can do better on our own. And guess what? We have the likes and shares on Facebook and Instagram to prove it. But here's the thing. There's a turnaround here. Don't worry. It's not all doom and gloom. There's a positive message coming forward, and we're coming back to our bodies. Don't worry. We are human beings and we're mammals. And the scientific research shows us again and again that we do need connection, and that connection can happen through genuine community. And it's really, really cool what science has shown us and has proven again and again about how connection affects our bodies and the actual physical and chemical makeup of our bodies. It's really amazing. So when we experience positive social connection, it encourages our parasympathetic nervous system. So this kind of face-to-face social connectedness that we're experiencing right now fortifies the tend and befriend parasympathetic response and engages something called the vagus nerve. And the reason why this is a good thing is that the vagus nerve counteracts the stress response associated with the fight or flight mechanisms. So when we tone the vagus nerve, when we slow down the vagus nerve, it slows your heart rate, it slows your blood pressure, and it's especially helpful in times of performance anxiety, stress and anxiety, which, you know, I have got to say continues to be the number one request, the most sought after classes in relation to yoga for me. So our vagus nerve is the prime driving force of the parasympathetic nervous system, and it regulates your rest and digest, that tend and befriend response. So that's pretty cool. Now, personal connections also stimulate a hormone called oxytocin. And this is another tend and befriend hormone. When you tend to befriend, it releases oxytocin, which has typically been known as the cuddle molecule or the love hormone. Now, whereas adrenaline or cortisol, those are your stress hormones, fuel our fight or flight response, oxytocin's at the other end of the spectrum. And it's at the heart of our innate urge to form close-knit human bonds and the parasympathetic response to take care of each other. So it's really cool because oxytocin is sometimes called the hormone of forgetting oneself, which is really cool in the context of a culture of individualism. And it plays an important role in forging connection. It acts like a psychological buffer. Oxytocin has been proven to enhance your sense of optimism, your sense of trust, your sense of self-esteem and mastery. And even small expressions of support between family members and friends can stimulate that release of oxytocin. So this means that feelings of love and trust and sincerity and heartfelt touch can actually prompt your body to heal on a physical level. And it's not just this stress response, which is huge. Like if you can get rid of your stress, that sympathetic response, that, you know, you're pretty much going to solve all your problems. But, you know, oxytocin, it reduces the cortisol and it lowers your blood pressure. But there's some really, really cool studies that shows how oxytocin helps people with digestive issues. So if you have IBS or Crohn's or any kind of those digestive issues, there's these really amazing studies that are showing that there's a receptor site for oxytocin in the intestinal tract, and that oxytocin improves gut mobility and it decreases intestinal inflammation. So this is a really cool connection that's being shown for these digestive issues, which are really quite rampant right now in our culture. Not only IBS and Crohn's and colitis, but also just generally food sensitivities and like the wheat intolerance, the gluten intolerance, all these things, you know, forging connections can just make such a big difference. And you know, all of you are feeling this in our community. When I went through and looked at the DYC last week, many of you spoke about the support and the growth and the knowledge and the kinship that you feel in our community, how much it means to you to have people that you can relate to, like-minded people, to discuss what's important to you without judgment. That was a big deal. To have this place of safety, to feel the resonance with other people, and a place to really gather wisdom and insight. Particularly, Carrie's response last week in the DYC really stood out to me, because I think coming back full circle to the beginning of the talk is that, you know, it does go against the grain. There is this kind of inherent mistrust in community and desire to do it on our own, because that's the culture that we're raised in, and that's what we're taught to value, you know, to do it on our own. And Carrie spoke about doing the Sakyabhava class, the friendship class, and she had some insight after that class around taking action in friendship. And that being in friendship, making connection takes effort. And it does. It's not something that just comes easily. And she said, she felt inspired to take effort to call, to email, to visit. And, we are a culture of doers, but this is what really stood out to me about what she said, is that, and I think it's the biggest thing that we can do when we're to offer friendship and connection to other people, which is to be present when we're in their presence. That's what she said, be present when in their presence. And that's the greatest gift we can offer to another human being. So she said the warrior poses helped her embody the action of being present and concentrating. And, our yoga and our meditation, but both, they really do give us the skill set to be present to ourselves so that we can be present in our relationships in our lives. I mean, there's a reason why that's a focus in our community, because every one of you that I spoke to about why you practice, relationships were, first of all, you wanted to be able to relate to yourselves better, and then secondly, you wanted to be able to relate to those of you in your lives. That's how we came up with the intention for our community, by talking to each one of you individually. And that came across loud and clear every single person I talked to. So, but I think it does go against the grain, and it does take effort. So, yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this as well, because this isn't a monologue. I think that is something that's unique about our community as well. So I'll hand it over to you now so you can introduce yourself, where you're connecting from, and your response, and any thoughts or questions about that as well.
Well, speaking of community, those are two that want to be included. I have to notice that since we are doing the meditation, they are much more agitated than when I'm doing my yoga on my own. I don't yet know why that is. It is because I'm immobile and they want to entertain me, or was it because when I'm moving that they know that I'm moving and it's okay, they don't have to entertain me? Okay, putting that aside. Community, yes. Being a person that is outside of their own community, like family and close friends, being an expatriate, how we are called, because we are expatriated from our patriot country. I came to, especially in this posting here in Vietnam, where I noticed that I did not feel the urge again to connect to another expatriate community, which you tend to do so because you can, you share your same values and you have fun together, and you maybe, you have a cultural background that is more or less similar, although you might not be from the same country. But I chose not to do so because I felt that I had to retell my whole story again and again and again. And expatriates tend to be on a short-term contract, although long-term for them, 2 years or 4 years. But then after 2 years, then there would be new people coming in again. And then you have to redo this whole cycle of retelling your story and all that. So, well, yes, you can say that you are adding more friends, but are they really friends? I mean, for some, you're connecting for a while and then everybody goes their own way. And then keeping in touch with your own friends is quite time consuming as well. Apart from the job that you're doing, and then also the new colleagues or whatever, your working colleagues or whatever. And I really just, on the one hand, I'm happy that I'm working in an office where all my colleagues are, have families on their own, and so they are busy with their family and their friends, and they don't have to entertain me, and I also don't have to entertain them. And that is very good. We have a wonderful working relationship. We also have, aside from that, I'm constantly invited to go and visit their families, but they also but it's more like an obligation here in Asia to invite guests to your house, because the guest is the most important person in your family when he comes to visit. So, but I always kindly deny, and I say, no, I'm busy with my class and my painting, and I say I'm online painting with all this. But they get it, they understand that, and they are quite happy that sometimes I also don't come, because then they don't have to entertain me. But okay, that's all these cultural things. But and then I chose to join this community, and then you wonder why, you know, like, well, she was really looking for a community. Yes, I was. But I was looking for a community where I knew it was long term. You're not vanishing in 2 years. You're not vanishing in 4 years. Oh, okay, maybe some, but you're there. The community is there, unless we decided one day to stop it. I mean, that can happen. But it's a long-term relationship that I was looking for, and also, especially the one where we are all on the same journey. Even though everybody goes their own directions, but it's the same journey. And like I wrote yesterday in the DYC about what this community brought to me, and it only came to me when I was starting to type that message, was that you brought back the way to spirituality for me, without an organized religion, because that is what I had to struggle with so long time. I cannot understand organized religion. I'm Catholic, yes, but I did not grow up in a holy matrimonial Catholic way. My mom, she loves to go to church, but that's more like because that's her community where she loves to go. But I could never understand this. There is somebody above there or wherever, and all this. Since I was a child, I never got it. So I struggled a lot, and I thought I could not lead a spiritual life without organized religion. And I can, because you showed me the way to do so. And yes, Buddhism does also help in a sense that it is a teaching that goes into questioning what is around, and most importantly, in yourself. And that is good, and I like it. And I don't have to wake up, pray 10 Hail Marys on my head and whatever, and turn around and dance, whatever. I don't have to do that. I can just only sit, think, contemplate, and be with myself. And with the community, because I'm sharing it with the people that I like, and I know that they will understand, and then they will not judge me on it, which is, again, the most important thing in this community. And I have to just to add, because I'm on the verge of moving maybe into a different cultural background again, and there it is more Buddhist oriented and animistic culture, and I have to say I cannot wait to finally be there. And it's not because of the idealization of anything. No, it's just that I noticed already that I can probably feel very comfortable in that culture, although being an outsider. And I'm also not going to immerse myself into that culture or be now with a lot of Burmese or friends. I will tend to keep my own still, because, okay, I'm a single child. I have always been on my own, but I've never been lonely. So I also need that. I need the connection to the community, but I also need when I need to stop in and retract back and maybe get a little bit of the yin and the yang again into balance. So, but I have to say that I'm very much looking forward to changing the cultural background into this more into a different mindset, because this here in Vietnam and is very Confucianism, straightforward. We have to, it's still in their heads. We have to develop, we have to grow, we have to grow, we have to grow. And the growing is what you hear behind me. It's this constant busyness and noise, and it's horrible. And yes, everybody is getting digestive problems, conjunctivitis and nervousness and stressed out and burnout and horrible.
So I think the thing for me with community, and it only just dawned on me in the last week since our last class, I've been thinking about it, is building trust in people. Because before I became a member, I had a very intense period in my life, and there was a lot of relationship trauma, and my trust was eroded, and I was pretty shut down. And it was coming into the community where I could just show up and be who I am, and no one's going to give me any grief for it or make me feel unworthy or whatever. There's just a huge level of acceptance, and there's also meaningful contact with people, like real, genuine, authentic contact with other people. And I think as a culture we're probably starved of that. I'm fairly fortunate in that my community, as in my neighbourhood, we're not in each other's pockets, but we do care about each other and we do connect with each other. And that's, we need that. We need that to survive. Yeah.
The trust is very big, and it takes a long time to develop that trust. It takes a long time. We have people coming into our community, and inevitably when they come in, they've been following us for more than 2 years. Like, that's the length of time that it takes. Yeah. It's not unusual. It's very unusual for people to come in, I've been following you for a month. No. Like, we had somebody join today that had been following us for 4 years, and then they trusted enough to come in. They're like, that's a long time that it takes to build trust, because that's how much lack of trust there is out there with people.
Yeah.
I would have to say that I 100% agree with what Michelle said, the trust issue. But with this community, I'm still a little uncomfortable, like with the live show, it's like all that. But I'm learning to put those, I don't know, what do you call it, that fear away. So, and I just feel like I know each of you on a personal level. So I appreciate it, and thank you.
I'm trying to think back, like, remember life before Facebook. I'm seriously I'm seriously trying to remember life before Facebook, and trying to remember, like, was there so much, did I put so much pressure on my social interactions before then to be as perfect, or did they just, were they as shitty then? And did I just have no expectation for them to be perfect because nobody else was posting these perfect social interactions before them? Do you know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
So, like,
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I'm like trying to remember back to life before Facebook. What were my social interactions like? What were my expectations of my day like? You know, like, this has been kind of on my mind, these very real considerations.
I just think that for my generation, I grew up with Facebook. I
Right.
think,
Never
like,
did
I'm
have.
just like, I show how young I am. I think I was in like 5th grade when Facebook like came out. Of course, I didn't have it in 5th grade, but like, it's like, I don't, when you said, I'm thinking back to what life was like. Well, I was in elementary school, you know, and I don't know if elementary school kids these days are on Facebook, but, you know, it's just, I don't know what life was like without it. It's just crazy to think about that. So.
See, I've never been on Facebook. I've only recently just gotten on Instagram, and I'm very choosy about the people that I let follow me. It's basically only these people here.
I joined Instagram because of you.
Oh, did you? See, my hairdresser, she keeps harassing me to join Facebook so she can interact with. She loves Facebook, and I said, well, now I've joined Instagram, so you join Instagram. You meet me halfway. But yeah, with the Instagram, I'm very I put up nice pictures. I mean, you're not going to see the shitstorm that my spare bedroom is. I'm not going to. Yeah, but I'm very careful about who I follow. Like, I've followed a few people, and then they've started posting lots of stuff I wasn't interested in. It was just too, you know. So, you know, unsubscribe or delete, whatever. Yeah, you know. So I'm starting to interact on that level now, but I'm also very choosy. Yeah.
But even that's a very online social thing, right?
Yeah.
To be able to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I think those are good decisions to be making in that online space. But like, thinking back to that analogy of before social, right? You just had to be friends with whoever and interact with whoever was in your class, or whoever showed up at church, or whoever, right? You just kind of got along or didn't get along with whoever was in your space, right? And then it was like, you know, it wasn't like, you're bugging me, unfollow, right? That wasn't an option, right? And so this is where I think that, like, so now we get into these social spaces and we're like, you're kind of irritating me. Community sucks. I'm just gonna back away. But actually, that's just life, right? We're all gonna rub each other the wrong way sometimes.
Right. Right.
That's part of being human beings, right? I'm gonna unsubscribe from this group because it's not really doing it for me anymore, right? I don't like everything that they do anymore. So that's like, that's not real life, right? But our consumer culture has led us to believe it is, right? Oh, you're my grocery store. Oh, you're not carrying this anymore? Well, if you don't carry it, I'm going to go over to that grocery store, right? Like, it's not really.
The unwillingness to stay with everything.
With discomfort, it's the same. Like, it's like why we meditate, right? To be with that impulsiveness to leave. So I've just found it really interesting reflecting on community this month. Go ahead, Maria. You look like you wanted to say something.
No, I was just thinking, it's also like people feel so entitled to everything that they think that they own everything. So if it's not to their satisfaction, then I'm just going to turn away from that.
Mm.
You know, that's what I see a lot. But I remember life without even a cell phone. Oh my God, we used to have to
Yeah.
call from a house phone.
That's right. Yeah, those periods where you couldn't communicate.
No.
Yeah, or when long distance phone calls were expensive, no Skype
Yeah.
and stuff, and you had to
Yeah.
write letters and
Yeah, actually getting mail without being email.
Yeah.
before email.
Yeah. I used to write with my grandmother all the time when I was small, and we communicated via mail and cards. And I think that was actually a really beautiful thing. I mean, you don't do that anymore. Nobody writes a letter, and it's different.
Yeah. So these are things I think, we talk about hearing the teachings, contemplations, and feeling it in your body. So today I gave you some teachings and then also some very real things that happen in your body when you connect, right? The way the parasympathetic nervous system is stimulated and the way oxytocin gets released, like that's pretty darn cool. And the effects that it has on your nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system, amazing. But also, that you can contemplate these things for the next little while. Just notice the way you connect and disconnect and pull into individualism. Just notice that over the next little while, because it's such a strong pull in our culture. Such a strong pull. And especially in, practices like yoga and meditation, where you do them in isolation, right? They're not team sports like soccer, where you have to come together with a team. You could do it all by yourself. So let's practice, but I just open that invitation to contemplate a little bit and notice connection in your life, and notice when you disconnect, and notice when you pull into those habits. Do it on your own. So go ahead and lie on your backs with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. And you're going to just begin to feel the support of the earth underneath you. So a lot of what we do in our practice, I used to spend a lot more time with this at the end of my classes, is ask you to make that life connection. But right here is that life connection. You're feeling the support of the earth underneath you. And in opening and allowing your body to open to the support of the earth underneath you, you're opening to the possibility of receiving support in your life. So that's already happening here as you lie down on your back, letting go of needing to do it all by yourself, letting go of holding yourself up, letting go of the sheer ego strength of doing it all on your own. And you do this by feeling the support of the earth. Relaxing and letting your body open to the support that's always there. Your palms are on your lower belly. Your elbows are heavy on the ground and your eyes are closed to encourage that inward focus so that you can feel your body from the inside. And you're going to feel your 2 feet, the 2 sides of your buttocks, your mid-back, your 2 shoulder blades, your 2 elbows, and the back of your head on the ground. So we don't have to do it all. We don't have to hold ourselves up and do it all on our own. We can let go and let ourselves be supported by the earth. And when we let go of all that control and tension and holding, we are opening to the possibility that we can receive support from those around us too. In the same way that we receive that support and stability from the earth underneath us. So we begin with our feet. And you're going to breathe into all the pores of your big toes on both feet. And we're opening to the sensations that are present there. Feeling the toes from the inside, the bottom of the big toe, the sides and the top, the hardness of your toenail, the main body of your big toe. Feeling any discomfort or achiness or pain. And just notice what sensation is coming forward. Maybe it's tension or gripping or holding. And as you open your awareness into your big toes, you'll find that the tension in your big toes can begin to drain downward into the earth. And then breathe into your second toes, feeling the tension in your second toes. Feeling the tip of your second toe, the ball of your second toe, the neck of the second toe. Just see the various parts and dimensions of your second toe. And notice what tension wants to come forward. And then notice how you don't have to do anything. It's just like the way we come into community. Our presence is enough. And our presence to the sensation in the big toe, the middle toe, the second toe, is enough to allow that tension, any gripping and holding to begin to release and let go. And then breathing into your third toes, the middle toes on both feet. And sensing the tension and sensation in the middle toes. Feeling the tightness and the gripping. And letting that tension release and dissolve down. And then breathing into all the pores of your fourth toe. Feeling the tension. Just noticing what sensations are there. Maybe pain, maybe holding. And just follow the natural process of relief that's happening. There's no need to make anything happen. It already happens on its own. It may take several repetitions. It may take a little longer. But each time you come to this meditation, you'll notice your ability to feel, the release. It will all be a little easier to feel, and it happens with greater ease. And then again, some days will be easier than others. And then breathing into your baby toes. Notice how the experience of your baby toes is different than your other toes. Letting that tension release and dissolve and let go. And then coming back to the experience of all 5 toes. And just feeling the difference now, feeling how they're all a little bit less tense, more elongated. And feel how that letting go of all the toes has reverberated up through other parts of your body as well. Maybe other parts of your body have let go. And maybe also, as you're releasing tension, it's revealing other layers of tension, inviting you to move back into other parts of your feet and other parts of your body. So opening your awareness into the ball of your foot, behind all your toes, and feeling the difference here between the sensations in the necks of all your toes and each one of the toes, to the density of the skin here, and then the bones up through the roof of your foot. And then feeling how that tension releases and dissolves. Opening your awareness into the arch of your foot. The front of your arch, the middle of your arch, the back of your arch. Feeling the tautness in the arch itself, but all the way up through the layers, through the bones, to the front of the ankle, and the sides of the feet, the inside and the outside. So you may feel little twinges or you might experience it as a fuzziness or a little buzzing. So the energy can feel different in different parts of the foot. And then feeling that downward flow as the tension releases. And each part of your foot is a part of a meridian map that maps out your entire body. So don't be surprised as one part of your foot releases if a completely different part of your body releases. And then coming to your heel, the density of your heel bone, your ankles on either side. And following the release of tension through this part of your body as well. So now your whole foot is relaxing, releasing, melting, and dissolving. Just open your awareness into your foot as a whole, feeling for any remaining layers of tension. And then let your attention open up into your lower leg, particularly your shin bones. Feeling the shin bones from your knee down to the front of your ankle. The muscles on either side of the shin bones. The backs of the shin bones. And just follow the tension as it dissolves and lets go and releases. And opening your awareness into the back of the lower leg, into the calf muscle behind your knee at the top, all the way down to the Achilles at the bottom. And feeling for sensation in different parts of the lower leg. So there may be tingling, there may be numbness, there may be a sense of hollowness, of darkness. So feeling your whole lower leg. Noticing where tension is holding on. Feeling that tension hold on. And then let that follow the tension as it releases. It takes time. It takes time. And it's not you that makes anything happen. You're simply bringing your awareness to the tension, and then the tension transforms and releases. So feel your buttocks on either side of the ground. And just notice if there's any gripping or holding there. So feel the way they touch the earth. Notice the tension. Feel the gripping. And then let that tension go and release. And open your awareness into your pelvis as a whole. So feeling your hip bones, the tension on the outside of the hips. And again, you might feel tingling or gripping or an achiness. Just notice what is coming forward for you. And then feeling tension in your upper legs from your knees all the way to your hip bones. Feeling the thicker, denser muscles and muscle tone of the thighs and then the backs of the legs that wrap around your femur bone, your upper leg bone, and also the inner thighs and outer thighs. And just notice how each part of your upper leg has a distinct sensation and feeling. Again, there might be tingling, there might be gripping, there might be an achiness. But as you open to the sensation, it will gradually dissolve and release and melt, unravel and let go. And then feel your mid back. Feel the connection between yourself, the earth, and your lower rib cage. And notice if there's any gripping and holding that's causing you to lift off the earth at all. Feeling into the side ribs. And just let your side ribs release and sink into the ground. Feeling any tension in the lower ribs, the organs of the torso. Feeling any gripping or holding there, any tension. And you just keep opening to it, and you just keep offering your presence. And sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes it takes longer for that tension to unravel. And sometimes it's an imperceptible shift. Maybe it's barely noticeable. And sometimes it's just being really open to sensation, to the sensation of tension. And so we spoke in the talk before about trusting, and this is part of building trust, a trust in the process. A trusting that really you don't need to do anything at all. That you simply can show up and allow your body to unfold. You're simply opening your awareness to tension in your body. And the unraveling, the release happens. So the same is true in our lives. We can do these practices, and we can trust that the container of our body will become more porous, we become more open, and our connection to other people will become more inherent. We will inevitably connect to interpersonal bodies without effort. It will something that will just naturally evolve. It will be part of this slow and developmental process. And then feel your shoulder blades on the ground. The bones of the shoulder blades, feel their connection with the earth. Allow them to rest deeply on the earth. And open your awareness into the tension of the shoulder blades themselves. Breathing into all the pores of the shoulder blades, especially just inside the shoulder blades, up into the upper lobes of the lungs and the collarbones, the fronts of your shoulders. Notice where your body is presenting tension, gripping and holding. And let that tension come forward, and notice how the tension is letting go. And then feel your head heavy on the ground. And open your awareness to the felt sense, the experience, the somatic experience. So feel your head from the inside, feeling tension in your eyeballs, your eyebrows, the bones of your forehead, the skin of your forehead. Your skull and your scalp. And opening your awareness to the felt sensation of your brain, the front of your brain, the middle and the back, the top and the bottom. The back of your neck at your occipital ridge, the back of your throat, the back of your tongue. Letting all the tension from your head just drain down through the back of your head. And then opening up to the experience of your body as a whole again, breathing through all the pores of your body. Feeling the open spaciousness of your body, allowing any remaining pockets of tension to come forward. And then letting that tension dissolve as you breathe out, and let that tension sink down into the earth underneath you. So we're just going to do that for a couple of breaths, maybe 3 or 4, breathing in through all the pores of your whole body. And breathing out, letting that tension dissolve. And then after a few breaths, just allow yourself, give yourself time to rest in your body, to just be in your body, to feel your body as a whole. And to rest in stillness. Okay, and then staying connected with your body, you're going to very slowly make your way back up to our circle. And so I'll open the lines, and we have some space if you want to comment on your practice at all, or if you want to ask any questions about your yoga or meditation practice.
Well, it started out very monkey mind, distracted, up until legs, and then it was sort of in and out of not quite sleep, but sleep. And, very calm, open kind of feeling. I had a random thought pop into my head about Christmas. I don't know why. It's probably about talking about community and turning away. But other than that, it was just a very calm, relaxing experience today.
Today, I really just couldn't get settled at all. It seemed like the whole practice, I was like in and out, and then I would be like staring at the ceiling and turning my head. And I mentioned last week on the forum, it's like I'd feel tension in my tailbone, and so I'd put my legs down, and then I'd feel tension in my low back, and I want to put my legs back up, and it's just like trying to feel comfortable, and then it's like, oh, well, then my head hurts, I really want a pillow. You know, all these things, and it's like the more you focus on it, the worse it is, right? But it's so hard not to focus on it when you're trying to, you know, fully relax, you know. So that was my experience today, which has been a little bit different than what I normally feel. So just kind of, I do feel calmer, but there's still tension in my body. I know I didn't release, especially in my low back, and pretty much right down to my tailbone. So.
Yeah, sometimes what can happen in this meditation is it can reveal how much tension we've been turning away from. You know, that can be quite revealing.
In the release that happened over the last sessions in my body is quite interesting in that okay, my car accident is now more than 2 years ago, but I still have this feeling that this bad energy is still in this right hip area, and that I'm trying to drain it out, and I it's now very present again, although there is movement, there is going away, and there is improvement in my flexibility and everything. There is still that area there that is not does not yet want to open up or let go or go out. So, but I'm patient. I'm not forcing it. I'm just aware of it, and it's there. And then when, especially, I mean, when I'm in my feet, I'm in my feet when we're moving up, and then when we're in the pelvic area, that's really where it then starts to, I'm here, hello, and I'm not going away, not yet. No, I don't want to leave. I'm feeling good here. But yeah, that is, and now again, it's very present there, and yeah, and much like Kate, I have the problem with my arms falling asleep on my belly, so I tend to then just open them out to avoid getting them falling asleep, because that's very uncomfortable. So I'm just opening up, but it's getting better. So probably I'm releasing from my shoulder as well.
It can take a while to find an ideal position, and then when you do, you need to change it again. But yeah, what's your setup right now, Kate? What do you got going on there?
Well, right now I just have my yoga mat like on the ground, and so I lay on my mat, and then I usually put a blanket over me because I'm always cold. But like I'll start out with my feet on the floor with my knees bent, but then like I said, after like halfway through it starts to put pressure on my tailbone, so that then I want to stretch my legs out. But sometimes, like today, that was problematic in my low back. I've had back tension all day long. So yeah, that's what's happening.
So I'll just pass on a couple of things that I do, and then other people can pass on what they do. But because I think as yogis, we're a little bit unique from meditators or people that sit all day. Our psoas is actually longer than most the average person. So that knees bent, feet flat on the floor position isn't necessarily as comfortable for us as for the average person in my experience, in my body. But I don't, you guys can tell me for you and your bodies. But I do know in my body, I absolutely have to have a folded blanket on top of that yoga mat. I cannot be just like right on the mat on the floor.
Okay.
And my sense of that is that is going to become another folded blanket on that folded blanket at some point very soon. Like I'm looking at getting a blanket like that's a nicer color for my set, and I think it's going to have to be two the same color, because I know that I'd actually like it to be just a little cushier for when I do meditation. Just yeah. And then as far as the knees bent, feet flat on the floor thing, it is really nice to have that connection with your feet and the floor at the beginning, for sure. I just find in my body, my hips ache too much, but a nice option is to have your bolster underneath your knees or a rolled up blanket underneath your knees instead. And then that gives you the option of the longer psoas, but still a bend in your knees so that your back doesn't hurt.
I like the bolster. I think I've always just been like afraid, since I'm so new to meditation, that there's like a right position and a wrong position, and so I just didn't know what I was doing,
So I think you just, you trust that connection with the earth is still there, and you can still release. Do you guys all mostly use bolsters?
I do, and I actually put a blanket too on my mat, underneath my back, because it feels better on my back. Yeah, especially when there's a lot of tension in my back. That and a pillow. The pillow always helps too.
Under the head. The other thing I was thinking about just the other day, looking at restorative classes and propping and stuff, we could purchase another blanket, a third blanket, and roll it under your feet, so that instead of the floor under your feet, you actually have so you've got your feet over the bolster and a rolled blanket under your feet. So you have that sense of connection. So your feet, you know what I mean? Instead of them sitting here like this, there's that blanket underneath your feet. So there's the floor. My first yoga teacher that I studied with very seriously at Esther Meyer's Tama Sobel show, he says, there's nothing wrong with you. The floor is just not reaching you. And she'd always like put something in, to make the floor reach you. So that's always stayed with me, to bring the floor up to you however you can. So your feet are in midair. Blocks too.
I cannot wait for it to get colder to be sleeping or meditating on my sheepskin again.
Sheepskin. Oh yeah.
Because that is, seriously, that it makes the whole difference. If you ever have the opportunity to get one, the warmth. It's only the warmth, you know. It's like, okay, a woolen blanket is wonderful, but seriously, sheepskin. Okay, I have to say I have one that has no skin. It's felted. It's a friend of mine who made that for me. So it's the hair of the sheep, but then underneath it is felted. So it's really the sheep is.
I was looking at those online the other day too.
They energetically speaking, they make a big difference. Seriously, you just feel like you're warmed. You know, you're like in a womb. You like. It makes a big difference, and for somebody like you who are so frisky, sorry, I'm getting to that stage as well. It really, it's completely different, and it makes nice and warm, and you don't have to think of, oh, I'm getting cold and blah blah blah. It's really interesting.
When you say sheepskin, is it like they shave the sheep and make the hair into a blanket? It's not the actual skin, is it?
Well,
no. So you can get the sheepskin where the sheep has died, and they cured the leather, and the sheep has still the wool, or the pelt is still on. And this one here, the sheep has been sheared. They cut it off. But when you shear the sheep, so somebody who is really professional in that, the whole pelt actually stays somewhat together.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who actually then felt it underneath. So the whole thing keeps together, but it's just felted without the skin. Wait, I will get it. I will show you, so it's easy.
The Kundalini people use those.
Okay. Well, because like I said, I have a knitting thing online, and I partner with a farm in Wisconsin, and she has a sheep sanctuary and does all the spinning and everything. So I was just thinking maybe this is something I could try to get. As long as I don't think I could do the skin though.
No, but
interesting.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful one, Sandrine.
Yeah.
This one has been sheared off, and underneath, my friend, she felted this.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is
How cool.
That's a big one too.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
Now we're all thinking, do we
I need one.
So many options.
It gets pretty cold.
I don't think they have those at Home Sense.
No.
It gets pretty cold on the floor in the winter.
I know. It's a dream, Maria.
I'm always putting extra blankets underneath because I'm cold.
Okay, so yeah, make yourself comfortable.
Yeah.
When you go
That's
on
the whole
retreat,
point.
you see at the beginning, it's the meditation room. It's so like Zen. It's like everybody had the setup for each individual spot. It's like a little rectangle and then a cushion, and it looks all very neat and tidy, and it's just like very orderly. Okay, as the week goes on, it just gets, everybody's spot gets more and more throne-like, more and more stuff gets piled up. The room gets more and more, it doesn't look Zen by the end of the week. It looks like a children's playroom by the end of the week. So get what you need to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good week, and I will see you next week on the forum. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.